I want to tell you about a conversation that I've had more times than I can count. The details change, the industry changes, the title changes, the company changes, but the moment is always the same. Someone sits across from me. They're smart, they're accomplished. They spent 15, 20, 25 years building a career inside of a company or an industry. And somewhere in the first 10 minutes of our conversation, they say some version of the same thing. I feel like I'm becoming invisible. Not fired, not demoted, not passed over for a specific promotion, just invisible. Like the work that they're doing matters less than it used to, like the expertise that they spent years accumulating is being valued less than it once was. Like they're still present, but somehow no longer fully seen. I call this the death of relevance, and it's a subject of Chapter 3 of The Last Employee, The Rise of Ownership. Let me define it precisely, because I think the word relevance gets used loosely. Relevance is not popularity. It's not how many people know your name. It's something more specific, more valuable. It's the degree to which your knowledge, your judgment, and your presence are sought out and acted upon. When you're relevant, people come to you. They ask your opinion before making decisions. They route problems in your direction because they believe you can solve them. Your input changes outcomes. When relevance erodes, the opposite happens. Decisions get made without you, meetings happen that you're not in. Your opinion is solicited out of courtesy rather than genuine need. In the most painful version, your expertise is replaced quietly and without announcement by software, by a younger hire, or by a reorganization that simply eliminates the function you spent years mastering. This is what I mean by the death of relevance. It's not a dramatic event. It's a slow erosion that becomes visible all at once. Here's the mechanism. And this is important because understanding the mechanism is what allows you to protect yourself from it. When you spend years inside one company, and two things happen simultaneously, your internal relevance grows. You know the systems, you know the people, you know the culture, you know the politics, you know the history. You know how things get done inside of that specific environment. That knowledge is genuinely valuable, but it is valuable almost exclusively inside of that context. At the same time, your external relevance quietly shrinks. The market moves, new methodologies appear, new tools replace old ones, new players enter the industry, and because you've been focused on mastering one environment, you've not been tracking those shifts with the same intensity. This is not a personal failure. This is the natural consequence of depth. The deeper you go inside of one organization, the more context-specific your expertise becomes. The problem is that corporate contract used to account for this. The implicit agreement was you give us your depth, your loyalty, your context-specific expertise, and we will give you security. We take care of you. We protect you from the consequences of your external relevance shrinking because you will always have a home here. That contract is broken. That contract doesn't exist anymore. I talked about this in the last episode. AI is eliminating functions. Reorganizations are eliminating the roles. Acquisitions are eliminating entire divisions. And the people who built their careers on the assumption that the contract would hold are discovering that sometimes very gradually, occasionally all at once, that the protection that they were counting on is no longer there. I want to tell you what that moment looks like when it arrives, because I've watched it happen, and I want you to recognize when it happens to you. It usually doesn't look like a crisis. It usually looks like a series of small signals. You're left off a distribution list for a meeting that you would normally have previously been in. A project that you would have led gets assigned to someone else without explanation. A decision gets made in your area without your input being sought. A reorganization happens, and your role is not eliminated exactly, but repositioned in a way that it feels like a demotion that nobody will call a demotion. And then one day, usually when some of these external forces cause the issue, a real elimination, a layoff, a company sale, you go to the market. And you discover that the expertise that you spent 20 years building inside of one context doesn't transfer, not the way you assumed it would. The title that meant something inside that company means less outside of it. The relationships that were the foundation of your internal influence don't follow you out the door. The institutional knowledge that made you indispensable in that one environment isn't portable. And that's the death of relevance. And it's one of the most disorienting professional experiences a person can have, because it arrives without warning and because nothing in your career prepared you for it. Here's what I tell every person that sits across from me at that crossroads. The antidote to the death of relevance is not a better resume. It's not a LinkedIn refresh. It's not a new certification or executive education career program or career coach. The antidote is ownership. When you own an operating business, one with systems and cash flow and customers and exit value, your relevance is now structural. It does not depend on any one company's organization chart. It doesn't erode when an algorithm changes or a division gets restructured. To the contrary, it compounds. Every year you operate, you build operational expertise that's all yours. Every system you refine, every employee you develop, every customer relationship you build, those things belong to you in a business that you own. They are assets on your balance sheet, not contributions to somebody else's. And this is the relevance that comes from ownership, the relevance that being the person who signs the checks that makes the final call, who built something from nothing. That is entirely a different kind of relevance. It doesn't depend on an organization chart. It doesn't get restructured away. It's yours for as long as you choose to hold it. This is why level 2 of Knauf's hierarchy of franchising, the single unit owner, is the most important line on the entire map. Not because one franchise unit is the destination. It's not. The hierarchy goes 6 levels for a reason. But because crossing from level 1 employee to level 2 single unit owner is the moment you stop building somebody else's relevance and start building your own, that's a critical line. It's the moment that the asset that you're building belongs to you. It is the moment that exit value belongs to you. It is the moment that everything you put in compounds in your direction instead of somebody else's. I've never had a client who crossed that line, come back and wish that they had stayed at level 1 as an employee. Not a single one. The death of relevance is real. I've watched it happen to extraordinarily talented and accomplished people who simply didn't see it coming because nobody told them about the mechanism. But now you know about the mechanism. The question is, what do you do with that knowledge? The Last Employee, The Rise of Ownership, launches as an ebook on May 1st. Chapter 3 goes deep into this, the stories, the patterns, the specific decision points where outcome diverged between the people who acted and the people who waited. In the next episode, The Rise of the Owner Class, who is building right now, how they got there, and why this particular moment in history is unlike any that I've seen in 30 years. I'm George Knauf, Franchise Investment Strategist, creator of Knauf's Hierarchy of Franchising, founder of Orca Franchising, and author of The Last Employee. This is Franchise Snack Season 2, Episode 5.